Hi, everybody, and welcome to another episode of And Now You Know with Betty and Julz. I'm Betty.
And I'm Julz.
And today we are titling this episode 4 Quarters and 8 Minutes.
So before we start, I do want to let you all know that Betty and I are not doctors, we're not therapists, we're not counselors, we're none of those things. We went to the School of Hard Knocks, and that's where we got our PhDs. And we just started, we met back in 2018, and pretty quick into our relationship, Betty started going through a catastrophic event in her life, and then shortly thereafter I did too. She began her journey going through a divorce, and then my mother became ill, and we just became each other's soft place to go, or no judgment zone place to go, and just a place to go and have an ear and a shoulder and be able to cry or laugh or whatever. And then Betty introduced me to this concept of 4 quarters.
Yes, so I'll tell you why I love it so much, but I came across it on social media, and it was simply just a picture, and it said, I'd rather have 4 quarters than 100 pennies. And I remember just thinking, when I was younger, I loved socializing. I remember I always wanted to be, kind of in the party scene. So I would either be hosting a party or attending a party. And I always just remember being around a lot of people. And as you get older, and of course, as I got older and as you go through life experiences, I started really just realizing that it's not about how many friends you have. It's kind of that whole numbers thing. It's really about quality over quantity. And so that started to change in my life. And I started to realize you don't need 100 friends. You don't need 1,000 friends. You don't need all that. All you need a handful, 4 or 5, of really, really good friends, which we call the quarters.
Right, right. And I kind of went through something similar, and I think that it was almost a collection of people in my life that was a very good indication of my codependency, because I was in a party planning business for a long time, and I sold beautiful sterling silver jewelry, which I'm thankful for that because I met one of my quarters on that journey. And I just was surrounded by hundreds of people all the time. And then I had a big house and a pool, and I have the gift of hospitality. And so
She really does. She's great at it.
I love it so much. And I didn't call them charcuterie boards back then. I had great food. I had wine. All the kids were invited, moms, and it was just so much fun. But they seemed to be pretty surface kind of relationships. And then when I started going through a really, really nasty divorce, those people just started dropping off like flies, and they weren't there for me. And the ones that rose to the top became my quarters.
Yeah.
And they are still with me today. And I can pick up the phone, and we could have not talked for a year or, 6 months or even a week, but it feels like no time has passed.
Well, and that's really what a quarter is. It's somebody in your life that you can count on them. They have been there with you through it all. You laugh together, you cry together, you share your stories, your big life milestones. It's funny. I have heard people say in the past that if you really want to know who your friends are, go through a hardship.
Yep.
Whether it's a financial hardship or an illness or
a divorce,
something happens in your life.
Yep.
And it ends up becoming kind of a double whammy, because not only are you going through the hardship itself, but then it's the realization that you really don't have all the friends that you thought you had.
Right. And it's good. It's good. It's like cleaning out your closet, and you don't need things to take up space. You don't need people to take up space in your life. You want those ones who can just come and sit quietly.
Yep.
No judgment, and they can say, I'm so sorry that you're going through this. What can I do? I love you. Or they just bring over an ice cream or flowers or anything. They don't ask you what you need. They just do something because they care about you so much.
Yep. And that's a really good point, because we were talking about an experience that you had gone through. And when you're going through something, and then you have friends or somebody, that end up kind of giving you the cold shoulder, and they say, well, you didn't reach out to me. That's really hurtful, because when you are at the bottom of the pit, when you are going through whatever situation you're going through, and you have a friend get upset with you because you didn't reach out to them, that feels really crappy.
Oh man, this one that I think she's talking about, I didn't know the quarters concept then, but I would have put her in the quarters category, because I'm sorry, I keep hitting the cup that Jay gave me.
Okay, it's going to move right
We're
here.
going to move them because I keep hitting it with my pretty ring.
With your pretty sterling silver.
This is platinum. I deserve platinum by this time.
Gosh, that was so funny.
Okay, anyway, back to the quarters. I had a friend who I thought was a quarter. I didn't know the quarter concept then, like I said, but I was going through a horrific, it was one of the worst things I'd ever gone through in my life. And I was having a hard time breathing. My mom had to come up. I was trying to take care of my children, my kids. One of my kids was grown up, but I still had a young one at home. And this friend broke up with me because when I was down, flatlining. And she broke up with me because she said that I wasn't giving her enough attention. And you know what? I reached out to her after I had reached a place of recovery and was starting to feel good in my skin again. I reached out to her and I said, I just want to apologize. I've always been one to extend the olive branch.
You have.
It's what I've been taught, whether it's my fault or somebody's fault. I don't like loose ends. I don't want to carry around any bitterness or anger. I just don't want that inside me. And so I reached out to her and I said, I want to get to a place of reconciliation. And she said, I'm not interested. And I'm okay with that because I did my part.
Yeah.
I am set free from it. But I don't ever want to treat anybody like that.
Yeah.
Ever.
Well, I'm going to say two things about that. The first thing I'm going to say is she did you a favor.
I hope she's watching this because she'll know who she is.
And you know what? She did you a favor because life is too short.
It is.
And we don't have room in our life to have somebody have such a lack of empathy and compassion. I don't want anybody near me that's going to be like that.
Why do people think they can judge you?
No, that not
Their
only
feet aren't in your shoes.
right. Not only that, not only judging you, but being kind of heartless.
Right.
From a place of she knew what you were going through.
Yeah.
And then to treat you with just this level, there's an arrogance in that that infuriates me, to be honest with you.
Me
because
too.
because
I'm getting
Julz,
kind of mad thinking about it.
Well, and this
Not
is
really.
this is not
I'm not.
this is not supposed to be an episode to like upset you. This is actually
No.
supposed to be an uplifting episode.
I am. I'm joking. I'm not upset about it.
But really, the part that is infuriating is that if you knew Julz, you know that she is the most loving, the most kindness.
Thank you, Betty.
Judgment free, which is why I love her so much. Judgment free. I grew up in a family full, in a church full, in an environment full of judgment.
Yeah.
And that for me, and I was very judgmental myself in my younger years. And when I came to a place of going through hardship and going through a divorce where I judged myself so harshly because I thought it was the ultimate failure, and I found Julz, who was by my side, who I could say anything to, and she was there to embrace all of it with me. The part that infuriates me is how somebody could be so judgmental and hurtful to you when you are so the opposite of that. So that part really upsets me.
But it's good because it taught me such a valuable lesson, and I've got a thing. I have some trust issues, quite frankly, and I'm always expecting the other shoe to drop. But when you've got your quarters, the shoe's not going to drop with them.
Right.
They're not going to pull the rug out from underneath your feet. They are the people that that if you do something inappropriate at 3:00 in the morning and you get thrown in jail or
you call them.
You can call them and they'll come get you. And they'll say, we don't have to talk about this right now. We'll talk about it when you're ready.
Yeah.
Or we don't, whatever. I know you're going to tell me eventually, but they're still going to love you.
Yep. And honestly, Jules is one of my quarters, and and I have a couple other quarters. One who lives in Florida, and I love her so much. I've known her for probably almost 25 years now. We went to college together, but she is that person that you were talking about earlier. We don't talk every day.
Yeah.
We live far away from each other. She has lived in probably 4 or 5 different states during the time that I've known her. And even if I don't talk to her for 3, 4, 5 months at a time, we can be on the phone for hours and we do not skip a beat. And, we try to travel to each other to see each other at least, a couple times, here and there. I haven't seen her in a couple of years, but we were texting a couple days ago, and I feel like time with us stands still. Yeah. I don't feel like we lose time or there's this big gap in our lives. I don't feel like that. I know she has a beautiful, full life. She knows I have a beautiful, full life. She travels a lot. Now I'm traveling a lot. And she knows that I'm cheering for her and she's cheering for me. Yep. And, you are a quarter that's in my life on a daily basis. Right. So I have a quarter that's here by my side, the constant. And then I have a quarter who is not not on the daily, but I know that I could say anything to her and I could call her in my darkest hour and she would be at my doorstep. Yep. I know she would. Yep. And that's so important to have a friend like that and to know that you have them and they have you.
That's right. One of my other quarters, she used to live right across the street from me. We've known each other now for exactly 25 years. We met in 2000, and we've gone through so many chapters of life together, and we have just had each other's back on every single turn. And just recently, she had a death in her family. I didn't know this family member all that well, but I can promise you that I was sitting out there in that congregation. So when she looked, she saw me. I am a piece of love for her, and she is a piece of love for me. Yeah. And there's no way, and she thanked me afterwards, and there's nowhere else I would have been able to be on that day except there for her in that moment, to give her a hug and to give her other family members hugs and just let them know I'm a praying girl and that they are in my prayer book, and I'm praying that God moves them through this chapter of grief and this valley that they're in, because it's hard. And she does the same thing for me. Yeah, absolutely. I mean, when my mother was sick 5 years ago, she was at the hospital and let me go and run errands or go run errands for my mom, and she would stay there with mom. Yeah. And it's just really recognize who your quarters are and love them hard. Yeah. And be there.
Yeah. If you've never heard of this concept before, this is an opportunity for you to kind of take an inventory of your life, of your friends, and tell the people that that you love and that you want to spend time with, and really, I think this concept really helps you to see who would you identify as a person that you can count on. And, of course, unlikely for me, and I hope that it never would happen, but if I ever got thrown in jail...
I'd come get her.
If I ever got there, she would be my first phone call. She's already after my kids, she's first on my speed dial, right? So
Jay would be with me.
100%.
He would carry her out of jail because she probably wouldn't be able to walk.
So plan who that phone call would be to, your emergency contact for that situation.
Go to your darkest moment that could potentially happen. It won't, but just in case.
Yeah. Who would you call?
What's it called? ICE?
Yes, it is ICE.
What's ICE stand for?
It's in case of emergency.
Yes.
Yeah, she is my ICE contact.
Yeah.
And, of course, you never want to plan for that. But at the same time, who do you have in your life that you could call? And, my parents are 2,000 miles away. They're, elderly. They're in their late 70s now. I wouldn't call them. I wouldn't call them. And if I'm, in any kind of trouble, I would not call them. And of course, I also wanted judgment free. So I definitely would not call them.
Right. We don't need any questions.
Yeah, no, I don't need all that.
Later. I mean, you're so raw in those moments.
Right.
You don't want to talk about it.
Yeah. So take an inventory. Yeah. I think that this is such an important thing, because as you get older, if you're young, if you're in your teens or your 20s or your 30s and you're hearing this, it will make more sense when you get into your 40s and your 50s and your 60s that really you don't need to be known or liked by everybody. You don't need it. You don't need it.
You don't have
Actually,
time for it even.
yeah.
Relationships, I learned with Jay, we had the good fortune of we both worked from home, so we were able to spend quite a bit of time together. But I realized how long it takes for a relationship, not just a relationship like a romantic relationship, but friendships too take so much time to root and to. You've got to nurture them and feed them and love them and water them and take time on them. And we've only got so much bandwidth.
Right.
And I'm not saying go discard everybody from your life.
Yeah, no,
at
not
all.
at all.
I've got lots of people that I hug and I love them still, but they're not they're not my rooted relationships that like I can tell her everything, and I mean every ugly, bad, good detail about my life, and she still loves me, which is quite remarkable because I'm so thankful for my quarters. And I mean, Jay, I don't think Jay would be a quarter. He's beyond a quarter, but he loves me too. And my resume is not impressive.
Well, but see,
but it is impressive
again,
because I am
judgment-free zone.
Yep, and I'm taking my mess, and that's what Betty and I say on every episode. We're taking our mess and using it as a message, because you pull those things out of the dark and put them in the light. That's what Jesus wants us to do with these things. And because there's somebody out there, I hope, that's listening to this that can look at me and say, if she can get through it, I can get through it.
Well, and that's what it has done for me, is knowing that she has been through all that she's been through and how she still chooses to show up in the world today, knowing after all of that, that gives me, number one, her wisdom, that there's so much wisdom that I have gained, but it gives me safety. You know, it's a safe place for me to rest my head on. It's a safe place for me to be able to unpack. Really, sometimes there's stuff that you're ashamed of, and sometimes there's like the ugly,
always.
Right? There's stuff that you are afraid to say to people. I'm not afraid to say anything to her.
No.
I can say anything to her, even crazy thoughts. I can just say anything. And I do want to kind of now segue into the whole 8 minute.
Okay,
8 minute.
Yeah.
So,
I don't know that much about this 8 minute thing, except I think I've been living it.
Yes, she has, because we just had an 8 minute moment yesterday. So I'll share the 8 minute. So if you're familiar with the work of Simon Sinek, who I absolutely love, and you can find him on LinkedIn or Google him or YouTube or whatever. But, you know, he's an amazing communicator, and it's really all about emotional intelligence. And he specifically focuses on, relationships and with, companies and culture and all that kind of stuff. But one of the things I recently saw a post that he made, and it's about 8 minutes in a relationship. And so this is how it goes. If you have a relationship with somebody, a friendship, a romantic, whatever it is, typically friendship, and they're going through a hard time, or you're going through a hard time, the way that you can kind of have like a code word for each other is, hey, do you have 8 minutes? And that's when they know that you are in need of a shoulder, in need of an ear. And the reason why he said this whole thing was that he had a really good friend who was going through a hard time, and she didn't know how to approach him and didn't know how to bring it up to him. And so after the situation had happened, he said, "Oh my gosh, why didn't you tell me? I absolutely would have been there for you." And she said, I just didn't know how to communicate it. And so over the course of, conversations or whatever, he had found that there was some kind of study done, and they had determined that a person needs only 8 minutes of time where they can unpack whatever it is, whether it's if they have to cry it out, or if they have to just kind of like unload and share these feelings, or talk through whatever is giving them depression or anxiety or whatever. And if they have somebody on the other side that's listening to them, that's present with them, that's validating them, that they know that person, they got me, right?
Yep. They're listening.
That can totally change your world. It can change your day. It can change the next step that you choose to make. It can absolutely turn it around for you.
Even if they don't try to fix it or
Right.
give you, they're just an ear. Now, in our 8 minutes yesterday, Betty is trying to decide on an opportunity, whether she wants to pursue it or not. And she's having some anxiety about it. And at the end of listening to her, I said, I think you've got to listen to what you're talking about to other people. And I think that this anxiety and the pulling back from maybe doing this is telling you that now is not the time. It doesn't mean that it won't be later.
Right.
But right now is not it. And she did have a light bulb moment.
I did, because what she reminded me of in the middle of this, I kind of felt like I was spiraling a little bit. And, what she reminded me of is, we have an episode that's talking about trust your gut. And I have said before, I have learned to listen to myself, and I have learned to trust myself. And at that moment, I was having such a hard time deciding, should I or shouldn't I, or should I or shouldn't I?
But I also think she thought she was going to disappoint me.
Well, I mean, it's something that I thought would be awesome for us to do together.
Right.
But at the same time, I just don't think that it was going to really allow us, with all the other layers
Right.
going on, it wasn't going to really allow us to do it together.
We weren't going to do it together.
Yeah, we weren't.
No,
We weren't.
no.
And so after kind of talking through that whole thing, and it really was, during that time, was probably an 8 to 10 minute conversation, but during that time where I knew that she was just listening, and I could just say whatever.
I pull over.
Yeah.
I parked the car because when we're having a conversation like that, I want to give it my undivided attention.
Yeah.
I really do. I don't need any distractions, because if I'm going to respond, I need it to come from my heart, and I need it to be true, and I need it to be filled with love, and not a sharp tone like, well, you just need to figure this out and quit talking to me about it. I
Right.
don't ever want to do that to her
Right.
or to any of my other super close friends. I don't ever want to talk. And sometimes we can, because we've got so many things going on around us. But it's important to say, hey, can I call you back in 5 minutes? Or let me kind of wrap up what I'm doing so I can give you my full attention.
Yeah. And so that's really knowing that I have had those moments.
Yeah.
And I know you have had those moments. And so if you have a friend, which, whether they're a quarter or not, if there's a way for you to kind of set up the code, right? That if you need each other, if you're in trouble, if you're having a rough day, if you just need an ear where you can say, hey, do you have 8 minutes?
Yeah.
Hey, let me know, when you're available so that we can chat for 8 minutes. And that will just kind of set it up to then now she can be prepared and fully present and not call me when she's trying to do a million other different things, if she knows that I have that need and I just need 8 minutes. So I really loved the concept of that. I loved hearing their story and how it kind of worked for them. And so that's why we wanted to include it in this session.
Yeah, I've been driving down the road, down a highway, and one of my friends will call me. The one I was just referring to a few years ago, her mother was in hospice, and she was the primary caregiver in that scenario, and she would call me pretty regularly, but I always pulled over. I was like, I'm coming up to a stoplight and there's a Walmart. Let me pull into the parking lot and then let's dive into this, because there are just some heavy things that go on in all of our lives, and that require a lot of love.
Yeah. And sometimes we're chatting and she's walking through the grocery store and we're just having a conversation about whatever.
I don't ever chat walking through the grocery store because I can't multitask.
We have.
I know, but I can't do it. I can't.
Well, but we're not.
I may be walking through the grocery store. I'm not shopping.
Oh, gotcha. So
can't.
but that's true though. But that's when it's like a light kind of fun, airy conversation.
Yeah.
There's nothing. But when she says that she pulls over, or when she says, "Let me just get in the car real quick," she has stopped me in conversations before to say, let me just take care of what I'm doing right here. I'll call you when I get in the car, because she knows that whatever topic we're talking about needs a little bit more attention. And so we do that.
But really, any conversation that Betty calls me about is important because she's important to me. And so are my other quarters.
Yeah.
I don't spend as much time with my other quarters as I do Betty, which is such a blessing. I mean, because sometimes you don't get to spend that much time with your favorite people in the world. But Betty's an extension of my family, and everybody knows it.
Yeah.
So
Yes, they do. And everybody who knows me knows if you haven't met Julz yet, you're going to meet Julz.
Yeah.
Because I literally have an example. Every conversation, I'm like, oh, Julz, let me tell you about Julz. And this happened with Julz. And I was with Julz when this happened. And we used to work together. And this has happened. And so there's so many conversations with every other person in my life where they've either met Julz. If they haven't met her yet, they know her name extremely well. And they know that they're going to be meeting her.
yeah, and a lot of people can have issue with that kind of a relationship. Betty used to be my boss, and it was funny because we've gotten into the habit when we're on the phone call, we end it with "I love ya."
Yeah.
And
yeah.
so when she was my boss, I would hang up and go, "I love ya," and she'd say, "I love ya," and Jay was like, "Who is that?" And I said, "That's Betty," and he said, I wonder how my boss would feel if I said I love you every time. I said I wouldn't recommend it. But Betty and I had already, and he knows that. He was joking around, but now he knows when I say I love you at the end of the conversation, it's usually Betty or my sister or one of my other quarters. And but it would be kind of weird if Jay said that to his boss after they.
Yeah, I don't know that would be well received. That's kind of weird, but yeah.
But we had gone through so much fire, and we clearly understood early on that the job opportunity was just a vehicle to bring us together.
100%.
And then all these cool conversations and hard things, those that weren't cool, but they were hard things that we were going through. It was just a perfect storm. And we're both these open books with each other, and we just talk and talk and talk and talk and talk. And we were like, we need to be recording this.
Yep.
Because we just want everybody to recognize your people and surround yourself with that kind of love and understanding. And I've got another individual in my life who is going through a harsh season of change, and she's being judged so severely by people who she trusted. And if you've got somebody like that going through something so hard, don't kick them when they're down.
No.
Just walk away.
Yeah.
And don't say anything.
Well, and what that
and don't make it about you.
Right. Don't make it like that, like your old friend did. Don't make it about you. And that's an opportunity for love and compassion and empathy. And I don't understand how it becomes, you turn it around and now you make it about what you did to me. And it's like,
I didn't do anything to you.
No, of course not. And in the case of who you're talking about, it's like, no, what she needs is love and support right now.
When somebody's going through something hard, you just need to show up and say, I'm so sorry. I love you. What can I do to help you?
Right.
That's it. Don't sit there and tell them what they've done wrong or how it's hurting you. It doesn't have anything to do with you. Your feet are not in their shoes.
Yeah, I think I'm
so upset about this.
I know. And as we get older, I'll tell you that this is where you're willing to put up with less, right? As we get older, the experiences that we have, our boundaries come up, our threshold gets lower, and we really do have to evaluate these relationships because another study that talks about, when you get to the end of your life, you're not thinking about I should have worked more or I should have whatever. No. Like when you get to the end of your life, you're really usually thinking about the relationships and fulfillment comes from the quality of the relationships in your life. Mm-hmm. And so if that's the case, then we need more love and compassion and we need communication and we need to be the shoulder for that person and they will be that for us too. Yeah. And so anyway, the quarter theory is meant for you to evaluate, think about it, identify. And when you identify those people, now here's the good part and the bad part. The good part is identify them and tell them. Mm-hmm. Tell them and, don't waste time expressing how you feel. If you love them, tell them. Yeah. I tell her all the time.
Just say it. Just say I love you.
Don't.
It's so fun to tell people you love them.
Yeah, don't hold that stuff back.
I remember the first time we said I love you.
I don't know either, but, it
now we say it all the time.
Now we say it all the time. But I think it's important to express yourself and tell people you love them. And I will tell you, growing up, I didn't hear that. at home. That
I
was
did.
not the norm in my house. And so now if I feel it, I'm telling you. I
Yeah,
want to tell.
yeah.
I want to say it.
Yes.
And so I think that's really important. Now the not so great part is that as you go through life, what you realize is that, you will go through a lot of friendships. There are some that do have to end. There are some people that are only meant to be in your life for a season, and that becomes really sad and it becomes hurtful and whatever. But at the same time, be quick about identifying that and removing that from your life, because what you don't want is resentment and bitterness and all this negativity. If that's what somebody is bringing into your life, then identify that and close the chapter.
And one thing that I did, I just was feeling a lot of unreciprocation. And I started recognizing those relationships in my life that were me constantly doing the calling and the planning and inviting. And so I stopped.
Yeah.
I stopped. And that's really when my quarters rose to the top, because it was 100% reciprocated on both sides. I called, they planned, I planned. They brought the bottle of wine over, or I said, no need, I've got it. Or it was just, it doesn't require the work.
Right.
You both want that relationship to continue to root and grow and get stronger. And you just know through the reciprocation on both sides.
Nobody wants a one-sided relationship,
No.
and that's romantically and friendship-wise, right? So
Even work.
it's true. You don't want to have to be the one that feels like you're showing up, you're, doing all the heavy lifting, you keep giving,
No.
they keep taking. That kind of relationship is not going to work long term.
It's not. In any relationship, it's just not going to work, because you're going to get burnt out and you're going to get tired and you're going to get drained, and you've got to have somebody that fills your cup.
Yeah.
Period.
Yeah.
So,
and I've said this before, like, you can't give from an empty cup.
No,
so
you
if
can't.
you don't have friends that, this is the podcast, the purpose of this podcast that we always talk about is that, we want to inspire and we want to uplift and we want to help people feel empowered. And so we hope that in the experiences that we have had and through our relationship, that we can share that for other people to benefit from it. And so if you think about the relationships that you have in your life, you should also feel that way. Who inspires you? Who empowers you? Who lights up the day for you when you have conversations? Who do you feel like has that, the reciprocity that you were just talking about, where if you brighten their day, hopefully in the time of need, they're also brightening yours.
Yeah.
And even if you're already having a great day, that they make it even more fun and you celebrate together.
Yeah.
That I'm all about celebrating and having fun.
Absolutely.
And so, like, I know that we can cry together, we can laugh together, we can party together, we can celebrate together, we can dance together. Those are the friends you want that are with you through the highs and lows, not just the highs.
No. And even like today, Jay's traveling, and this morning we do a devotion and prayer time. Even when he's on the road, we do it over the phone. And we got done, and he said, "What are you doing today?" And I said, "It's Bette and Julz Day." And he's like, that makes me so happy.
Yeah.
So I'm about to start crying. I got a lump in my throat just then.
Yeah.
He knows that if I'm not with him, then the next best thing is Bette, because she does make me happy. You can't be a sourpuss around Bette.
No, I'm all about
we are
positivity.
sometimes
Yeah.
we are.
Well, but we always say this too, like whenever we walk into a place, like whether it's an event or whether it's our building or whether it's wherever we are, when we're around, people know it because we're super loud. So everybody knows that we walked in the building.
But we're really happy.
But we're happy, and people tell us all the time how bright we are, and we add this level of kind of like energy and excitement to wherever we are. When we were working together, we were always the hostesses and the like greeters at the front door because, of course, we wanted to be the ones to like welcome people, and of course we jump on them and give them a big bear hug,
love,
and introduce them. If somebody walked in, this is how I always feel whenever anybody walks into either my house or an event, if anybody walks in solo and they don't know anybody yet, I will make sure that I introduce them, because I want to make sure that everybody has a friend. I want to make
Yes.
sure that
Nobody's
is
uncomfortable.
that nobody's ever sitting in a corner by themselves, not knowing anybody. No, I want everybody to know everybody.
Yeah.
Right. So
Because some people don't meet people easily.
Right.
They just don't.
we
I
do. Yeah, we do.
I can walk up to a stranger and for some reason, they will tell me their entire life story.
I have that effect too.
Yeah. Jay's like, how do you do that? And I'm
I
like,
actually feel really special.
Honored.
Yeah, and
Honored.
honored
Me
that
too.
somebody would feel not only so comfortable, but that they want to open themselves up, because I know how hard that is.
Oh, it
I know
is.
how scary that is, and I'm a vibey person.
Yeah.
And so when somebody feels a good vibe between us, that to me that's a really good thing. I'm all about, like, your gut tells you. So when somebody feels so comfortable that they just start spilling their whole story to you and telling you everything that they've been through, and they're doing that from a place of they feel safe and comfortable to do that, that makes me feel good, because I know that I'm in the right energy and in the right space for somebody to hold that for them.
It's true. It's true.
Yeah.
So.
Well, anyway, we hope that this episode has made you think a little bit about the relationships that you have, and the kind of the quality and the relationships that you want to have. And then, of course, that 8-minute thing, I think that's really awesome if you want to integrate that into your life. But if you have any questions or comments, we have in the comment section below. We would love for you. We invite you to type something in there to communicate with us, or shoot us an email. Our email address is hello@bettyandjules.com. We have a lot of things that we want to talk about, but at the same time, we would love to talk about the topics or the things that you're interested in also hearing about, and maybe our feedback or our take on it. So feel free to do that. And
Comment below or send us an email.
Yeah, totally.
We want to hear it. We love stories.
Yes, we do. And the spelling of our name is also down below in the description box, but I'm Bette.
And I'm Julz.
Yes. So until the next time, thank you so much for joining us. We so appreciate your support of this podcast. Tell your friends about us. Thank you so much for joining us.
Love ya.
And we'll see you in the next one.